listening to the best of the Martha Zoller Show. To hear the full show each day, tune in to AM 550 and FM 102.9 WDUN or log in to accesswdun.com and click the Listen Live button from 9 to 11, Monday through Friday. Buddy Carter's with me today, Congressman Buddy Carter, and I appreciate you being with us today. Good morning. How are you holding up in D.C. with all the snow?
Well, as you know, Martha, this is pretty tough on the South Georgia boy. I'm telling you, we're not used to this.
Well, listen, yesterday was a good day. Everything went off exactly the way it should, and y'all are getting to work, right?
We are. In fact, we've got a conference meeting right now as we speak, and we're organizing, getting our committees together, and the steering committee has presented their nominations for committees. So we're very excited about that. This afternoon, we'll have a meeting of the chairs of Energy and Commerce of the subcommittees that I'll be a part of, and I'm very excited about that. So, yeah, it's a pretty exciting time up here right now. I'll be quite honest with you.
So let me ask you a question. You know, I'm a bugaboo about the budget, and we talk about it every time we get together. You were in the Georgia legislature when Sonny Perdue was governor, correct?
That is correct. Okay,
so remember, I don't know if you remember this phrase, but he really managed the budget along with the legislature really well during the downturn, because the phrase he liked to use is he found all the pots of money and he used those for as long as he could. They were things that hadn't been spent, that had been appropriated for, but hadn't been spent. Does that exist in the federal government, where if somebody were to go through the budget, whether it was DOJ or whether it's the budget committee, where there's stuff that's in the budget that wasn't spent and that could be zeroed out and could give us a better picture of where we actually are? Is that just in the state government and not in the federal government?
Yes and no. No, obviously it's in the state government, and that's one thing that I've long admired. One of the primary differences that I've noticed being a member of the Georgia State Legislature as well as a member of Congress is how fiscally responsible Georgia is and has been for many, many years. There's only one responsibility that state legislature has, and that is to pass a balanced budget every year. They can do that and then go home and do nothing else, but I'm very proud of my state and what we've done in the way of being fiscally responsible over the years. And Nathan Deal, Sonny Perdue, Brian Kemp, everyone's done a great job with that. So now at the federal level, here's the key. And interesting you would mention this because we're experiencing it right now with the IRA. The IRA, there are billions of dollars that have not been spent, that they are spending just as quickly as they can because they know we're going to claw it back. They're trying to spend it right now, just get it out the door so that we won't be able to claw it back, because we are going to claw back a lot of that money in the IRA.
And tell people what IRA stands for in this case.
Unfortunately, it's a misnomer because it's the Inflation Reduction Act.
Got it.
It was one of the signature parts of it, although it actually increased inflation. But nevertheless, it was part of the Democrats' signature legislation, if you will, in the last session. And again, we're going to try to claw that back, but federal employees and bureaucrats are pretty smart. They know that they need to spend as much as they can spend so that they can get more the next year.
Yeah, I mean, I tell you, my son works for USDA. He's in he does research on bird flu and that kind of stuff. He's a terrific guy, but he even tells me that they run into pressure at the end of the year or at the end of the fiscal year to try to make sure that they've spent all the money they've got. And we've got to really change that culture in these departments. And I hope that we're going to be able to do that.
And I hope that's where DOJ is going to help us, because you've got two of the most successful businessmen out there, in Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, and both of them are going to be identifying areas that where we can save money, waste, fraud, and abuse. And certainly they're going to identify it. It's going to be up to us in Congress, and particularly us members of the DOJ caucus, of which I'm a member, it's going to be up to us to codify that and to follow through on that. It's questionable how much jurisdiction they will have. And in fact, they probably won't have any at all. All they'll be able to do is to identify it, point it out to us, and then we need to take care of it.
No, I think you're absolutely right about that. And look, I think there's opportunities, whether it's not filling federal jobs that are out there and reorganizing the federal government, whether it is doing something like Rand Paul said, where you take the 2019 budget, you adjust it for inflation, and then you use that as the starting point. But the number one thing is we got to be on regular order. So what should we expect over the next 100 days?
Well, first of all, reconciliation. Now, there was some question of whether we were going to do one reconciliation bill or two. The president has come out and said that he would prefer one big, beautiful bill. Now, he's wavered on that a little bit here in the last 24 to 48 hours. He has said, well, maybe, there are some good points to doing two bills. We had a meeting last night of the Main Street Caucus that I'm a member of, and we had two of the members of the Trump transition team. They really did stress how important speed was, and that is we need to make sure this happens during the first 100 days. Doing one bill obviously is going to be more difficult than doing two bills, but if you separate them, then you lose a little bit of your leverage with members of our own party. That is, those who their main focus is secure that border. Well, if you've got that in there, they're more likely to vote for that bill. If we've got other people who are budget hogs like myself who want to see cuts made and want to see the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act that the first Trump administration was able to pass, want to see those extended. If we don't get those extended, then Georgians, the average Georgian family is looking at a tax increase of about $1,500 a year, which that's the last thing we need in a time when cost of living is so high. So there's going to be a lot of talk about reconciliation. That'll be the one buzzword that you'll hear for the next 100 days. Because we can get a lot done through reconciliation because we bypass the 60-vote rule in the Senate. You only have to have a simple majority when you do reconciliation.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a good path for that. Well, Buddy Carter, I so appreciate you giving us your time because I know how busy you guys are right now. I know it's going to be a sprint from now until the inaugural, and then from there, it'll be a big sprint after that. So what do you want people to know as we're saying goodbye?
Well, I want them to know that, listen, we've been given a mandate. Donald Trump got 77 million votes. Members of Congress and the Republican Party only got 74.7 million. He got more than we did in Congress and the Republicans. But I want them to know that we are going to deliver on the mandates that they have made known. We're going to secure our border. We're going to decrease the cost of living. We're going to unleash American energy, and we're going to make our cities safe.
It's local radio, and that's why you're listening. It's the Martha Zoller Show on AM 550 and FM 102.9 WDUN.
Joining us right now is Representative Andrew Clyde, who has had a very busy week also, and we're going to talk about that week. Andrew, how are you?
Well, good morning, Martha. Great to be with you on WDUN.
Thank you so much. So give us a quick overview of where you are right now and what you're working on, and then we'll talk about what's happened and what's going to happen.
Well, I'm up here in D.C., enjoying 19 degrees of weather. Not really, but we are working on budget reconciliation, and we're looking forward to seeing the Laken Riley Act pass. We voted on it in the House. We had a little over 40 Democrats vote with us, but 159 voted against that. And it is unconscionable that the Democrats would vote against the Laken Riley Act, considering what has happened and considering what it does, that the act actually will help save lives. In my opinion, I think if that act would have been into law, I don't believe Laken Riley would have been murdered. And that illegal alien that did that heinous act would have been in custody and on his way back to wherever he came from in Venezuela.
No, I think you're right about that. And, I made the point yesterday that it should have been a no-brainer that our two senators would work along with Mike Collins, who is the congressman from her area, in order to further that act. But they had to be convinced, and we've gotten Senator Ossoff to get on board, and Senator Warnock is still wavering on it, but we're going to keep working on that.
Well, it's not surprising that Senator Ossoff actually got on board, because when I passed the Revised Criminal Code Act literally 2 years ago, Senator Ossoff voted for that, but Senator Warnock did not. Great on Senator Ossoff for finally coming to the table and agreeing to vote for the bill, because I think it's so important. We had 5 of the 5 Democrat House members, 4 of them voted against the bill. We only had 1 that voted for the bill. So was very disappointed in that.
So we now have Speaker Johnson. Of course, it is going to be recorded that it was on the first vote. But there was a little bit of gamesmanship, or whatever you might want to call it, in several of the members, including you, related to how you voted for for Speaker Johnson. How do you want to talk a little bit about that, on what your thought process was there?
Well, we had some concerns. As it is said, the best predictor of future performance is past performance, and wasn't very happy with the past performance of the speaker. But that decision has been made. He is our speaker now, and we are all behind him. We are going to accomplish the agenda that the American people voted for when they put President Trump in office. And so that is what we're focused on right now, and that is moving that agenda forward in whatever way we possibly can. And Speaker Johnson is going to be the speaker for it, and we are going to make him as successful as we possibly can.
Did you get a call from President Trump?
I did not.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess that's good, right?
Well, I'll see him tomorrow. So,
yeah, but what I will say is that I think that this kind of logjam that we broke related to the Laken Riley bill and the Laken Riley Act, and the number of Democrats that did vote with the Republicans, I think that shows that we're going to be able to get some Democrats to vote with us on some other things. Do you see that happening?
Absolutely. I think we'll have some Democrats vote with us on border. That's a huge issue for the Democrats, because Joe Biden's executive orders and this administration under Mayorkas and under our Attorney General has been a disaster on the border. I mean, that was truly one of the primary issues right there that has made our country suffer. And as a result, people voted for President Trump because he believes in a strong border, and he puts his money where his rhetoric is, and he's going to make it happen, and we're going to help him make it happen.
So what do you see? You're going to be meeting with, the caucus is going to be meeting with President Trump tomorrow. What do you see as what the next few days are going to look like?
Well, I think we're going to be talking about budget reconciliation, because as you know, and as I'm sure our listeners want to know, that is the one path that we have that can bypass the filibuster in the Senate. Any vote that comes to the floor in the Senate has to have 60 senators agree to end debate, and that is otherwise it gets, quote, filibustered. And in budget reconciliation, it bypasses that filibuster and only requires a simple majority to pass. And so that is what we will be working on. I think border security is going to be the number one focus of it. We are going to need to address the debt ceiling, because the debt ceiling is where Chuck Schumer has his greatest leverage, and we want to take that leverage away. We want to take the Democrats' leverage away. Otherwise, they will be obstructionists when it comes to passing President Trump's agenda. So we will put as much of his agenda into budget reconciliation as we can. And to understand budget reconciliation, anything that goes into that bill, that budget reconciliation bill, has to have a direct effect on the budget, either reducing spending or revenues, or you name it, but it has to have its primary effect on the budget itself. We cannot have just straight policy in the bill.
Do you see this being a one bill or a two bill? I know there's some talk about how they're going to do this, and I think the president's leaning towards wanting to have one large bill, which, there's challenges in that, right, when you have this one huge bill, but it does seem like that's the way the president is leading.
Well, yes, I think that is the way he's leaning, but I think he will accept either one. I think it doesn't really matter tremendously to him. I mean, we'll find out that tomorrow when we actually meet him face to face, and that will be a major part of the discussion. Whether it's one bill or two bills, as long as we accomplish the agenda, that's the primary focus. I'm in favor of two because I would like to see a smaller one get across the line first with border that addresses the debt ceiling and also has some real cash cuts, spending cuts in it in the first budget reconciliation bill. But, either way it goes, we're going to be supportive of it because the primary focus of reconciliation is accomplishing President Trump's agenda, and we are going to do that.
Well, I appreciate the work that you're doing. Thank you for being available. Is there anything people need to know and need to watch for between now and January 20th?
Well, you can see the Senate will be working on the cabinet. I think that's really exciting. I can't wait to see Pete Hegseth be confirmed. And then you've got Pam Bondi and Mark Rubio, all of these amazing picks that President Trump has made. We want to see the Senate get as many of them across the line as possible before the 20th. So as soon as President Trump is inaugurated at noon, that we will absolutely hit the ground with as full of a cabinet as possible so we can rescue this country.
Absolutely. Andrew Clyde, thank you so much for being with us today.
Great to be with you, Martha.
It's where North Georgia comes to talk. It's the Martha Zoller Show on AM 550 and FM 102.9 WDUN.
It is the Martha Zoller Show, and joining me right now is Representative Mike Collins, who, saw a need, met that need in his constituency, as Katie Britt said, and then enlisted a lot of people to help. And we're happy to have him here. Mike, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing fine, Martha. I appreciate you having me.
So has the Senate vote actually happened?
Yeah, they have to take a series of votes. And since I was over there whipping the vote all day yesterday, I figured I'd learn more about the Senate. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So need to. But they take three votes. The first one is a vote to move it into debate, and you have to have a 60-vote threshold. And they far succeeded that. And I want to thank everybody in Georgia who contacted me up until like 11 o'clock at night on Wednesday night asking how they can help. And people were calling. They were calling our Georgia senators and all across this country. And that vote succeeded. Very pleased with it. But then they'll have another one. They'll have debate, and then they'll have to do another 60-vote threshold to vote on final passage.
To end cloture. Yeah.
That's right. And so the final passage only has to be majority vote. So, we've got a really good chance of having this on President Trump's desk day one.
Well, and I know that Senator Warnock voted to move it along, but did he ultimately vote to end cloture?
I don't know. That's a question that I would hope he would answer, and I hope people will ask him.
Because I tell you, a couple of, at the beginning of the week, and I don't usually get angry. I'm pretty fair-minded about things, and I try to give everybody a break. But I said very clearly and started pushing them really hard, saying this should have been a no-brainer. From the day this happened and when you got involved in this, our two senators should have been involved. Senator Ossoff was actually at the Capitol the day after Laken Riley died, or it was within the days. The first day the session was back in, he was there for a regular visit, and he commented on it. He did finally agree to do the right thing all the way through, but Senator Warnock kept holding back, and I just don't understand that. It seems like it was not only was it the right thing to do, which should be the number one issue, but politically it was something they should do.
Yeah, well, and the thing about it, though, Martha, this is not a political bill.
No.
It's not a messaging bill. This is a solid piece of legislation that is a law enforcement bill. And for the life of me, I can't understand why we have to wait until major crime happens before local law enforcement calls in ICE. I mean, these criminals, they didn't come over here illegally to take all our money to put a roof over their head, their food. We buy their food, their clothing, their transportation. They didn't come over here to get an honest job. Their job is criminality. They're criminals.
And it does seem, and I know this is apples and oranges, but I think this is the way people feel. It seems like people in Western North Carolina are waiting a long time to get the kind of help that illegal immigrants are getting on day one. And people in California are waiting a long time to get the kind of help that people coming across the border illegal are getting.
Yeah, no, of course. But when you compound that with these people that have brought their criminal trait, and then all we do is slap them on the back of the hand for minor crime, that's when you want to get them out of here, because they're just testing you. There's no telling what Ibarra got away with. We don't know what criminal activity he did that he didn't get caught for.
Well,
so why should we wait?
And I agree with you 100%. And I will tell you that the apartment complex where he lived in Athens was key in catching him, because he and his brother had been committing crimes against these people, but they were afraid to say anything. And we cannot be living in fear like this. We have got to stand for the rule of law. And not only do you and everybody in the Congress need to do the right thing, but we as American families need to look in the mirror. We need to say, what is it that we can do to make this country better? It's about all of us pulling our weight.
No, it is, and I appreciate what you and your listeners did for this bill, for this act. You could tell that nothing in Washington D.C. of any consequence is ever going to happen until the American people demand it. And we could see, you could feel that people were calling, because once Fetterman got on board,
oh yeah,
and I don't know if you saw it. It was just common sense, and that's what he said. This is a no-brainer.
And if we can't get 7 senators, then we deserve to lose. That's what he said.
Yeah, but you could feel the momentum shift, and we could feel the people that were calling, and I encourage you. I have a lot of people that say that we don't do this, we don't do that, but please help us.
Yes.
Make your phone calls.
Absolutely.
So,
now, we've got a couple of reconciliation bills. Is it going to be one or two, you think?
Right now, it's one big, beautiful bill.
And the president, he's coming down there today, correct? Or was it yesterday?
I have not seen him.
Okay.
I know there are a number of people that are headed down to Florida from our conference,
including John Fetterman.
Oh, really?
Yeah, John Fetterman's going to Mar-a-Lago to meet with Trump. I don't know if it's this weekend, but it's going to be before the inaugural, which I think is great. I mean, look, why not? I think that it's the right attitude is to say, how can I work with this president? You're not going to agree with him about everything if you're a Democrat, right? But how can I work with this president? Because the truth is, Mike, his agenda is not a far-right agenda. His agenda is actually a business first, America first. It's not moderate, okay? But it's a more mainstream, I guess that's a better word, a mainstream agenda. So Democrats ought to be agreeing with a lot of this stuff.
They should. But you're right. This is an America first agenda. And the thing about it is, Martha, the House, we've been working on reconciliation for almost a year in hopes that we could get the trifecta as we campaigned. We've got all of our stuff ready. We're still asking other members and trying to flesh out anything else we can put in reconciliation. But this time around, reconciliation is going to be a whole lot different from when Paul Ryan and them ran this thing through.
Oh, don't even get me started on Paul.
Well, I mean, they started out with Obamacare. And look how long it held them up, almost a year. Yep. And then by the time they got to the economic package, the American people didn't feel it until the last couple of years.
Yep.
And so you need to start out where you help the American people as fast as you can with the biggest bang for your buck, and that's going to be the economy. President Trump can walk in there day one and roll back those executive orders that Biden rolled back on him, and then we can include some of that stuff and get the immigration as well. But getting this economy rolling, people are hurting out here.
Amen. Mike Collins, I know you got a heart out today. We appreciate you, and we're going to be talking to you a lot.
Martha, thank you for what y'all did.
Putting the talk in news talk. It's the Martha Zoller Show on AM 550 and FM 102.9 WDUN.
Joining us right now to just talk a little economy is Steve Moore. Of course, the Democrats are getting apoplectic about the tax cuts. Tax cuts don't cost money. It looks like today the president will be certified, and the Congress is going to get to work. Steve, how are you?
Good morning, Martha. Well, I got a big, broad smile on my face. Although we have 7 inches of snow here in Washington, D.C. You probably heard about that. So I am isolated in my home today. But I am going to make the drive in about an hour to Capitol Hill to watch this historic moment that's going to happen in the House of Representatives, which is basically the counting the electoral votes officially that will officially make Donald J. Trump the 47th president of the United States. And I just can't miss that. It's going to be an amazing, amazing experience.
So how far away do you live? And what's the normal commute time for you?
Well, I'm in, believe it or not, you're going to cringe when I say this. I live in the blue state of Maryland, which, by the way, is one of the bluest of blue states. But I can take a rock from my house and throw it across the Potomac River into Virginia. So we're right on the border there. But it's going to probably take me an hour or so because of all the snow that we have. And, Washington, remember you've had those ice storms sometimes in Georgia, and it just paralyzes the city. That's the way it is in D.C. But I'm not going to miss that. It's going to be one of those moments I can tell my grandkids about.
Well, and I think they did say, I mean, I know Mike Johnson said, and they said, hey, don't go home this weekend. Stay here because you need to be here on Monday.
Yes. Oh, I didn't actually realize. Because we knew this storm was coming. It is still snowing here, so I hope I don't get shipwrecked. But
my son was shoveling snow. They live in Kentucky. They were shoveling snow last night, and they were looking forward to the kids going back to school today.
I didn't even know people in Kentucky had snow shovels. But
oh yeah.
But
so what are you looking? What are you?
The tax bill.
What are you looking for in this first couple of weeks?
Well, it's right around the corner. So next weekend, let's see, not this coming weekend, but the weekend after that is when we have the inauguration weekend. So it's on Sunday. We're going to be, I hope you're coming, Martha. And if you are coming, we're going to do a big policy forum with, Art Laffer and Larry Kudlow and Scott Bessent and all the major players about what Trumponomics 2.0 should look like. And then, of course, on Monday is the swearing in, the actual inauguration. Then on Tuesday, this is a week from Tuesday, is the where we basically have the Trump entering the office. That's on January 20th. And that will be when we're going to start having the president sign all these executive orders. And incidentally, one of the executive orders that he's going to sign, Martha, did you see what Trump did this weekend where he basically declared almost all offshore drilling is now prohibited, which is outrageous. I mean, why would you do something so anti-America as that? Offshore drilling is happening all over the world, and we have so much offshore oil and gas that we can get at in an environmentally sensitive way. And I was telling my friends, who are working on the transition and high-level positions, we remember I mentioned, Martha, there's going to be a stack about 1 inch tall of executive orders for the president to sign as soon as he gets into office. Well, I want on the top of that stack reversing Biden's policy of not allowing offshore drilling.
Yeah, I agree with you. Steve, I know we had a shorter segment today, but we're up against the top of the hour. We appreciate you being with us today, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Martha.
Thank
you. Happy New Year to everybody.
Happy New Year. To hear the full versions of last week's Martha Zoller shows, go to the podcast page at accesswdun.com, and you can follow me on social media at Martha Zoller.